Hello and welcome to this very first YouTube video of Secrets of the Unknown. My name is Says Francis and I am a history enthusiast. Now, most of you will remember me of running the YouTube channel History Inside a Nutshell, and then also you will see me on my main YouTube channel, which I haven't done for a while, but if you would like to view both of my channels, I will leave links in the cards above. So today we are going to be talking about the introduction to this channel, The Secrets of the Unknown, and explain why I've started this channel in the first place, and also to explain the history of the princes in the tower. So to begin the video, I thought that it would be a good idea to introduce the whole story for people who haven't heard of the story before, and for those who want to have a recap of the whole events. So without further ado, I will leave you to VoiceOver Says to explain the story of the princes in the tower. For over 400 years, the mystery of the princes in the tower has fascinated historians and enthusiasts all over the world. In this tale of tragedy involving two boys with one young king deposed on the grounds of illegitimacy, their disappearance continues to surround in mystery and become one of the most infamous cold cases in history. The story of the princes in the tower began with an event that shook the House of Plantagenet by breaking feudal power and the stability of the English monarchy. However, the infamous Wars of the Roses didn't start with a disagreement on who would be regent for an insane king. The real origins of the Wars of the Roses came from the abdication of Richard II in 1399. Richard's rule had a vile record of acts involving unfair decision-making, revoking promises to his people, especially during the Peasants' Revolt, and falsely imprisoning, exiling, or executing nobles. By 1399, the people had enough, and as a result, Richard was overthrown by his cousin Henry Bolingbroke, who later became Henry IV. By the time Henry's grandson came to the throne, royal family members were divided into two separate groups: the House of York through Lionel of Antwerp and the House of Lancaster through John of Gaunt. In 1453, Henry VI was going through lapsed into insanity, though in today's medical terms, he would have been diagnosed with schizoid personality disorder. During this time, a disagreement arose on who was to become regent. From the House of Lancaster, Henry's wife, Margaret of Anjou, believed that she had the right to become regent. However, Richard, the third Duke of York from the House of York, was determined to seize power as he had a stronger claim to the throne. A succession crisis hung over the two families, and soon war had been declared after the Duke of York was forced into exile by the king upon his stability. In 1455, the First Battle of St Albans began, and this led to York capturing the king and becoming Lord Protector by the English Parliament. However, this battle would lead to 30 years of political manipulation and shaky grounds. For a brief period, there was peace, though one event stood out which led to a disappearance 28 years later. In 1483, a Yorkist king named Edward IV, a descendant of Richard, the third Duke of York, was taken ill unexpectedly. He died on the 9th of April at the age of 40, leading to a new reign of a 12-year-old boy. It was through this new rule that England began to experience another succession crisis. In his will, Edward IV proclaimed his younger brother, Richard, Duke of Gloucester, would be Lord Protector, reigning in his son's name until he came of age. And in case anyone's wondering, the new king was also called Edward, but he was known as Edward V. However, the news of the death of Edward IV travelled at a slow pace, and it wasn't until nearly a week later that both Edward V and Richard, Duke of Gloucester, learnt of the news. This was because the king's mother, Elizabeth Woodville, kept her husband's death a secret for days to ensure that the Woodvilles were sure about their family's position within the new reign. While the king and the Lord Protector were making their way to London after learning the news, Elizabeth Woodville already made plans to retrieve Edward for his coronation under the protection of his maternal family. By this time, Edward and his maternal uncle, Anthony Woodville, the Earl of Rivers, made their way to the capital from Ludlow Castle in Wales. However, Richard, Duke of Gloucester, intercepted the royal entourage in Northampton before making their way to London on the 3rd of May. Prior to the meeting of his nephew, Gloucester was in Stony Stratford, where it is believed that he and a few members of the new king's family stayed at the Rose and Crown Inn. It was here that the Earl of Rivers and the king's stepbrother, Richard Grey, were deposed, arrested, and later executed for treason. Gloucester, Edward V, and the royal entourage would begin a further stretch before arriving at the Tower of London on the 19th of May, where Richard, Duke of Gloucester, placed the king in the royal apartments before the coronation. It was here in the Tower of London that the coronation was arranged for the 22nd of June. In Westminster Abbey, Elizabeth Woodville and her other children fled to sanctuary upon the death of two of her family members. The children that came along with Elizabeth were all of her daughters, her eldest son, the Marquis of Dorset, and the youngest prince, Richard, the Duke of York. In June 1485, upon the orders from the Duke of Gloucester, the Duke of York was handed over to the Archbishop of Canterbury so he can join his brother in the Tower of London. Although preparations were underway, the coronation was postponed when some shocking news came into light that would change everything. On the day that the coronation was supposed to take place, a person came forward with a confession. Ralph Shaw, an English theologian who, during a sermon, confessed that Edward IV had already married a lady and had a possible child with her before his marriage to his regent, Queen Elizabeth Woodville. But because of this claim meant that King Edward V was illegitimate and could not inherit the throne. With this news, the English Parliament immediately proclaimed Richard, the Duke of Gloucester, as King Richard III. This must have come as a shock to Edward V, though he and the Duke of York began forming a sibling bond. Eyewitnesses who saw the boys in June 1483 said that the boys were seen shooting arrows and playing in the tower's gardens. It was also during this time when their servants were mysteriously dismissed. The last person to see the boys was their physician, Dr. John Argentine. In an account by an Italian monk named Dominic Mancini, who wrote an account saying that during Dr. Argentine's visit, he saw a nervous King Edward V taking confession and penitence. The deposed young king believed that death was drawing near. This occurred between June and July 1483, before the princes disappeared from history. But why is this the case? Why would anyone leave a question mark over the mystery? Well, we still don't know, but this is something that has always interested me ever since I could remember. So I want to give a little bit of the detail to explain why I am so interested in The Princess in the Tower. Although I had a passion for history ever since I was 9, The Princess in the Tower wasn't my first topic of choice. But in recent times, it's become the main subject. It has been a subject of fascination earlier in my life because, one, of William Shakespeare, and two, of the White Queen series, and three, of Philippa Lanley's discovery of Richard III's skeleton in the Leicestershire car park. But The Princess in the Tower has come back to me recently because although I love watching documentaries and I love watching and learning about the stories of The Princess in the Tower on YouTube and in books, I have never seen a YouTube channel that is dedicated to them. So I decided to give it a shot and see how everything goes. With this YouTube channel, I am hoping to not only share stories of The Princess in the Tower, but also I want to share some of my own theories, and I also want to share how the princes were portrayed in the media and in art, literature and culture. And also I would love to give interviews to people who are also interested in the subject of The Princess in the Tower, just like me. And I'm not putting this out there because I don't really want to give anyone a nudge to open the urn in Westminster Abbey. But since people are interested in this, I want to move away from that forcement, and I want to widen people's interests into the story. And I hope that through this YouTube channel, I will achieve towards that. And there we go. This is the introduction to The Princess in the Tower. I know it's not much, but I thought it would just best be explained through this way rather than go into a whole assignment about it. But I've also started a blog on the subject, and there will be times where I will be active on there instead of YouTube, or rather than YouTube, or at the same time. I don't know how it's going to work because it's early days at the moment. But if you would like to see the blog, I will leave a link in the description box down below. And if you want to, please feel free to check it out, and I will try to upload posts as much as I can, maybe once a month like on YouTube. But again, it's early days, so we're gonna have to see how it turns out. And then also, since I get caught up with the two other YouTube channels, especially History Inside a Nutshell, it's not going to be easy to keep everything on track. But I will let you know in the days forward of how everything will go. And until then, I will leave this video right here. And like I said before, if you want to check out the blog link, I will leave a link in the description box down below. And if you would like to see more videos like this, please give it a thumbs up and click on that little red icon where it says subscribe, and please turn on the bell for future videos if you would like to see a future video. And until then guys, I will leave it here, and until then we will catch you very soon for another clue to the mystery of The Princess in the Tower. Have a wonderful day, and I hope you have a wonderful Christmas and New Year, and until then I will catch you in the new year. Take care, bye!